The economy of the Western Empire was particularly fragile and declining due to the previously mentioned military reforms and geography, but mostly it was because of the constant raising of taxes and inflation and debasement of currency. The army would demand the government for more and more money. This was to combat the threat of Germanic tribesmen that was very persistent. The emperors had to create more coins to pay. However, by making more coins, the value of them would decrease. This was hyperinflation. Although the value of coins declined, the wages of the people stayed the same, meaning that they were actually worth less. The debasement of coins fed into hyperinflation was shown by the precious metal of coins. At the time, coins were the main currency. They had a certain amount of gold, silver, or bronze. Every time the emperor changed the value of coins, he also changed the amount of these metals. Lowering the amount of precious metals in a coin is called debasement. The debasement of coins caused there to be more coins but with less value. Therefore, the prices of commodities had to be raised in order for settlers to make a profit. The problem was that peasants and workers didn't have their wages. The amount they got paid was the same even though the value of their wages was not. This inflation was particularly bad on those living in the city. Emperors would raise taxes to constantly pay the army. Small farmers and peasants weren't too influenced by the inflation mentioned before, but the taxes would cause them to go bankrupt. They could not afford to pay such high taxes and would have to sell themselves or their children into slavery. They would also flee to larger landowners who could afford to pay high taxes. Small farmers and peasants would work parcels of land. They would have to put a portion of their harvest to the landowners, but they didn't have to pay detrimental taxes. However, after time, they became legally tied to their plots of land. Their loyalty shifted from the empire to their respective bosses. The rapid inflation, the changing value of money, and different objects made it hard to have enough money for tax collectors. Before, people would hoard money, trying to save up by keeping coins. However, coins would rapidly change and the value of the hoards would drastically decrease. Slavery was declining at the time, so tenant farming, where people work small plots of land for larger landowners, was more financially able. It helped the declining empire, but it was also part of the decline. Large landowners got support of their tenants could challenge the government. Most emperors did little to regulate the power of these large, powerful landowners. Eventually, they started to strip away the power of the government, leaving the empire weakened. The government also tried to raise money by taxing trade. However, this hurt the government even more. All trade had to go through specific posts and certain items were not allowed into the empire. These restrictions killed any of the trade that was trying to be developed. This led to an economy where peasants, lower class, and small farmers were broke and could not support the government. Large landowners had more power, being able to stand up to the government. The government was becoming poorer and poorer, and all their efforts to raise money were all failures. In the end, reforms by Diocletian caused the empire to split into two halves. The Western Empire was already at a disadvantage due to its natural geography, which made it easier for invaders to come through. The military's power led the army to constantly demand money and the emperor to be deposed by generals. As more money was printed to deal with the demands of the army, hyperinflation kicked in and money became less valuable. The inflation of currency led to economic problems. People couldn't afford commodities. They also couldn't afford to pay the higher taxes in place. Soon they started supporting larger landowners who could protect them. All of these various causes led to a crumbling empire. By the time the large Germanic invasions and civil wars occurred, the government had already weakened. This made it easier for the collapse of the Western Roman Empire.